Joining us here on Ukraine Today is Andrei Yahorau. He is the Director for the Center of European Transformation in Belarus. Thank you very much for joining us, Andrei.
Thank you.
So, a couple of weeks ago, the European Union lifted sanctions against Belarus and President Lukashenko. Why do you think they did that, first of all?
You know that this was a quite natural process of the previous communication between Belarusian authorities and the European Union, and the main obstacles for the sanction was their political prisoners situation. And after the political prisoners release, the European Union just wait a bit our election process and see what's would happen during the election, and the election was quite calm, without mass repression of people, without suppression of their opposition. So, of course, it is fraud during the election and manipulation, but it was rather calm.
Was this compared to elections in the past?
Yes, in a previous election in 2010, and that's why European Union decided to suspend these sanctions. It's not lifting the sanctions, but just temporary freezing some package of sanctions, the main sanctions, because there are some sanctions about armed bans, for example, in place, and for people responsible for their political murdering are preserved in the list.
Yeah, and do you, in your point of view, do you think that that was a good idea on behalf of the European Union to suspend the sanctions?
You know, in general, this policy of sanction was like moral reaction of the European Union on the situation in Belarus, and the ground for this restoration of sanction was political prisoners. While they get released, that we see the quite new situation, and European Union wants to give some incentives for this regime to go for closer cooperation with the EU. So in some sense, sanctions was not effective to push to do something. So lifting sanctions is possibly give us a new situation to build new kind of relations.
Yeah, but Lukashenko has been in power since 1994, and every election since then has had allegations of mass fraud. So did you think that's actually like the elephant in the room, almost? The political prisoners that got released are just a minor part of the human rights abuses that have been going on in Belarus. What's your take on that?
Exactly. The situation in Belarus remained the same. So we have...
so nothing's changed?
Nothing changed in terms of human rights situation, violations of freedom of speech, assemblies, and all the political rights in our country, frauds during their election process, and so on. I think that European Union knows this, but now we have a quite different geopolitical situation in the context of the war and military aggression of Russia against...
Because Belarus has acted as this peacemaker almost between
not
Russia
like a
and
peacemaker,
Europe.
it's not a subject in this game, but the place where negotiation took place, and Lukashenko performed themselves like...
Well, he's like a grandfather almost, welcoming all the parties in. And
but it's just a show. In the reality, there is no independent position of Belarus from the position of Russia, but it's performed like more or less neutral, without this idiotic propaganda in Belarusian media about this situation. So, and this is appreciated by the European Union. The European Union wants to preserve Belarus into the sphere of its influence.
Do you think the European Union has a lot of influence over Belarus, or the other way?
One analyst, I think it was Nino Popescu, who said that the problem of European Union, that European Union has a lot of presence but not power. So in Belarus we have the same situation. We have a great volume of trade with Europe. We have a lot of programs of European Union. We have about a quarter of the population with the pro-European orientations. But all these do not transform into the real power and influence of the European Union on the political system and political change in Belarus.
And in reality, over the next few years, and when I say few, I mean maybe at least 10, 20 years, what chance do you think do the opposition parties in Belarus have of having any say in the politics of the country? Do you think that this will change, or do you think Lukashenko's power will go on from the people that you've spoken to? What's their...
You know, I'm afraid that the situation will preserve with the Lukashenko rule. I don't know about the transformation of this regime under the Lukashenko rule.
But afterwards, though, after he's gone?
You know, it's not so easy situation, because there are systemic factors that push current regime to transform something, because we are suffering from the long-lasting economic crisis in Belarus, and the need of structural reform obvious, and it is on the agenda.
And these reforms are not happening?
Yeah, it's not happening because the you know, systemic reform in the economy connected to the liberalization of the political system. That's why Lukashenko is not happy about that and do not want to go this reform way. But a lot of different factors. I don't believe in very fast changes in Belarus. I don't believe really in our political opposition and political parties, because this is a huge problem about unity among the political forces, unity between the political forces and the civil society in Belarus. So people do not have a real political alternative to the Lukashenko.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you mentioned the civil society. What is that doing to maybe come together, I guess, to fight against Lukashenko?
The regime change is in the hand of the people of Belarus. I think the only way to change this regime is mass political movement, consisted of people, civil society, political forces.
Are we talking a revolution, or just a bit more underground?
I think that the change of regime could happen in different ways. We have Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia, or a solidarity scheme through the dialogue. Then they forced the communists to have a round table with their position. So I believe that we could have something like this kind of, in my point of view, good transformation period. They have also a violent transformation, and it's also possible, but it depends on the both sides, and on the people's movement, on the civil society on the one hand, and the authorities and their understanding of the interests of the country.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Andrei Yahorau. You are the director of the Center for European Transformation in Belarus. Now back to the news.